Hello and welcome to Extra Connections. I'm James Lott Jr. here on JLJ Media. I am the JLJ of JLJ Media. You know that. And I am here. I love my job. I love what I get to do. I get to talk to people that I actually admire. And I get these little full circle moments in my own head of people that I used to grow up with or seen on stage or seen on TV. And then I get to talk to them later. So I'm blessed and highly favored. So I'm really happy about that. And this person, I'm telling you, you guys know me. Once you do know me, know I'm very much into activism in mixture with my art and what I do. I think there's room for both. We're going to have a discussion about that. She has a podcast called "You Can't Say That." Well, of course you can. But also, you had an essay I think that I read called "Why I'm Fed Up with Performative Activism from White and Black Theater Makers." I thought it was really. I read that whole thing. It was really good. She directed it's your first time directing a film called Red Pill. But it also just told me there's a game and a book out, so talk about that also. Now, she also is a Tony nominee for Caroline Changes. Oh my God, it's so good. I've seen it. She played Lott's wife. How ironic. My name's Lott. My last name's Lott. But she won for Jelly's Last Jam. So, of course, she has her Tony. She's also starring in an upcoming Raising the Sun production, and we'll talk about where you can see that and find that, of course, and you want to go see her. Now, many of my longtime fans, who are also people, knew her as Livia Fry Cudahy on that classic soap opera, All My Children, which I'm still sad it's gone. We're going to talk to you. There's so much to talk about with her, Miss Tonya Pinkins. Hey, Tonya.
Hey, James, how are you?
Good. So I'm going to start out serious.
Okay. Let me get serious.
Yes, you start laughing. No, here's something that's interesting. I was going to share this with you. I was going to say, what am I going to share with her? I'm going to talk to her and share this. So I'm a host, an interviewer, producer, director, I do all these things, but I'm in front of the camera. I mean,
From where?
Producer, I'm in Los Angeles.
Okay.
I'm actually in Inglewood. I'm in Los Angeles. But I'm in front of the camera much of the time. So as you know, when you're in front of the camera, people can comment on your looks and comment on your stuff. And I get comments, good and bad, both. But recently, I used to have a shaved head until a year ago. And I just grew this out. Now I got curls in it. Thanks to Miss Jessie's hair care products.
It's beautiful.
But I decided to grow it out, girl, a little bit, have some fun with it. But I noticed for a while I was combing it out as a big fro. And I noticed folks were like, not Black folks, other folks would say, "Oh, so you're gonna braid it, right? Or you're gonna comb it down? Are you gonna like?" No, a fro is a hairstyle. I actually went online on Twitter and did this whole thing about a fro as a hairstyle. Look at Jennifer Lewis; she's wearing her hair like that right now. It's a hairstyle. It's not on the way to this. Having curly hair is a wonderful thing to have. It's not on the way to going straight. We can do straight hair, and I can blow it down, put it in a ponytail, do anything. But that explains to some folks that it's not on the way to something. So I wanted to ask you, kind of, how do you deal with stuff like that while I'm saying all this while I'm still a producer, a host, an on-camera personality. I'm still trying to do work, make money, that kind of stuff. How do you make some of those decisions of speaking out while working?
Did you say, what was the last thing you said? Without working?
While working, while trying to work and work.
Well, I'm sure that my speaking out has cost me work. I think that I've always chosen life. Like, what is the quality of my life? What is the journey of my soul in whatever I do? And I always, if anyone asks me advice about anything, I say, do what you can do and feel comfortable about when you wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and nobody else is around. Can you handle the consequences of your actions and your choices? Because everything has a cost and everything has a consequence. And I think of the book, The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Night. I don't know if you know, that was a book before it was a play.
I didn't know that. Actually, I didn't know that. Oh, wow.
It's a wonderful book. And the little boy in it is somewhere on the spectrum. And he doesn't understand why anyone would ever lie, because he's like, well, then you always have to remember what you said before. And why not just tell the truth so that it's like easy to know what to say. And I guess I kind of feel like that, like people who know me know that I'm going to tell them my truth. I ain't going to say it's the truth,
right?
But what you're going to get from me all the time.
I'm the same way. No, I think I came into the business in my late 30s. And I think I said I know who I am for the most part. And I'm always changing, evolving, growing. You're always changing. But I feel like if my friends and family see me online or see me on a TV show or see me and they know that that's not James, I could feel them. Well, like, that's not James. What's James doing? That's not him. Like, what is he doing? So you sound like you're kind of feeling the same. Like, I'm going to give you full Tonya and whatever I'm doing, right?
But I had to come to that, and it was really going through, this period. I think I was raised to code switch and to say what the other people wanted to hear. And I found, over the early part of my career, that even when I was speaking all the things that people wanted to hear, I sensed that they knew that I knew more and could see through, and they would still be mad. Even though I was saying what you're supposed to say,
right.
They could tell that it wasn't authentic. And so, I was paying a cost for doing something that I didn't believe in, but that I had been raised that that's what you're supposed to do. And that cost wasn't worth it. So I was like, well, let me just take the cost of just being myself.
Right. And it's so funny because I had to come to it too, of course. And I actually tell people, when I came of age in the 80s, there were certain things we just couldn't do yet. There were just certain things we couldn't say or couldn't do. We could do it, or say it, but and there are folks who did that, and they did have a cost, and they didn't have certain things. And there's some things I have no regrets. I think all the time I have no regrets, but there's some choices I made that I had to make in some ways. And I feel like do you feel kind of similar way? Like, there are choices you had to make, or do you have regrets? I think it's a good question. Or do you have regrets?
I certainly have things that I would do differently, but I don't have any regrets. I think I've had a great life, and it's my fate to live the life that I'm living.
Yeah. I feel like for me, I was always like, if I was high, I can look back and go, "Why should I did that? I used to did that." I look at that and I go, well, you can't really regret it. You were of that certain age. You knew what you only knew at that time.
Exactly.
And I also just trying to navigate the world of New York theater, Hollywood. So you were a Black woman trying to navigate that alone. A Black woman of this intelligent. You're trying to navigate that alone. That's a lot of work by itself, isn't it?
And yeah, it is. And I think people aren't so aware that even within those worlds, there are different cliques. And so, being a Broadway actress, that's its own clique.
Yes.
Off Broadway is another clique. And, just because you're in one doesn't mean as a Black person. I think white people can span the thing of everything, or, if you get that honorary white status, you can span everything. But I found even being a actress versus being a musical theater person, as I was coming up, those were different worlds, and you had to get to know those people, and they had to invite you in. And there was completely different rules for all of them.
Yeah. Now you did a New York show, which was All My Children, before it didn't come
and
out.
As the World Turns.
And As the World Turns. Oh, As the World Turns. So I know a lot of people were doing theater at the same time while they were doing soaps, or they do them in between soap gigs or whatever. Did you find any backlash or cliques there too with that? I'm sure you did. I'm sure there was, right?
Absolutely. When you sign those contracts, they're exclusive contracts. I don't know that I would ever sign one again. But at the time, you're just so excited that you got picked and they're going to pay you this money and and this is like what you've dreamed of. But the contract is that they kind of own you. They own you, and they can decide whether you can or cannot do things. I don't think I even understood that when I first signed those soap contracts.
Wow.
And for the most part, when I was on soaps, I didn't ever have a front burner storyline. So I was very well paid, but I wasn't working, and I was young. And so I was hungry, and I was hungry to create. And so I would, try to do shows when I wasn't working, which was most of the time.
Yeah.
But you had to ask permission to do that. And generally, they would just say no to me. And so I was fortunate that many of the producers would be like, well, we'll just schedule you on your day off. Or if you have to work, we'll let you out.
Dang.
And at one point, all my children was like, well, that's still a violation of your contract. And so if you want to do that play, which might have been a $1,200 job,
right,
you give us back $10,000 on your contract every time you do that.
I didn't know that. Wow.
I don't know that they did that to Susan Lucci.
Probably not. Love Susan. Probably not.
Love Susan.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, they have different rules for different people.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Yes, indeedy. That's interesting. Wow. But this was so interesting. I wasn't going to go into this, but now it kind of leads into a little bit. But 30 years ago, when you were on All My Children, so that's this crazy talk. You made up in front burner, but you were doing stuff that wasn't common though. You were in an interracial storyline, which they're still fighting out on soaps. I mean, they're still having issues with that. But you were in an interracial storyline. There was a whole adoption storyline with Kid Jamal, but then he was also one of the lead guys. He was the real father and all this stuff. I mean, you were kind of doing stuff that wasn't. They're still. I mean, 30 years later, still having issues with portraying that stuff on soaps. So I think it's very interesting because you said you weren't working that much. I remember you on the show, but
that was my only front burner storyline in whatever 10 years on that show. Wow. That's it.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. And that storyline, I mean, this whole interracial stuff. I mean, that was. I mean, we're still going through it or whatever. But
that was the end of Dick Schoberg's career. Like he had been married to Brooke and
Susan.
And Susan.
Yeah.
He'd been married to all the lead white ladies, and then they married him to a black woman, and that's the end of your storylines.
Well, when I talked to Peter Bergman recently, I asked him about him when they put him and oh my God, and Angie together. And he was like, I was so excited, I wanted to do it, and then they said, eh. Again, it was like 30 years ago. They're like, nope. They killed Jesse off, and they're like, here's this beautiful black woman who's a leading woman, and he's a leading man, and Peter Bergman's, he's a cutie, whatever. And he was like, I was so excited to work with her on a different level than just colleagues. It made sense storyline wise, but But you're right, Dick Schoberg, where is he? I mean, I hope he's doing okay. I mean, but you're right. It's like that was it. And so, and it just makes you feel like really, is that happening? It's kind of crazy. But you were. I remember that story. I remember that storyline. I just remember, okay, they gave this Jamal kid, and you guys all left together, and the whole stuff. And you were back on there many times after that. But I just thought that's just because interracial storylines are just not that they're still 30 years later. They're still having issues with them. Do you think they will ever not have issues with them, or are we just like, just in your opinion? That's kind of a whatever question, but it's like, do you think we could ever get past that on some level? Or
come on, we are in a moment in time in American history where our elected officials have actually publicly stated that they want to consider removing the legal right to marry interracially.
I know.
Like removing the legal right to do it.
We're still not seen as human.
I don't really care about how others see me, quite frankly. That isn't even, I don't care.
I love that. I'm the same way. I'm the same way.
As someone said, I've been really focused a lot on my own miseducation. And I'm an extremely well-read person. I'm an extremely well-traveled person. I've traveled 60 countries. I'm reading all the time. And I am constantly, like, in the pandemic was a time of discovering Dr. Greg Carr and Karen Hunter and learning how much I didn't know, and discovering John Henrik Clarke. So when we start thinking about facts, so as Europeans in their dictionary defined a continent, the quote continent of Europe is not a continent. It's just part of Asia. It's West Asia. Okay. You and I are global majority people. There is just nowhere that we are a minority. We are global majority people. And so for me, I start looking at the language that we have used about ourselves, and language does affect thinking. And so I've really started working on speaking more truth. I don't know what white supremacy is other than some idea that has been sold to us. I've never seen it. I've seen white savagery, but supremacy I've never seen. So that is a phrase I don't use anymore, because as John Henrik Clarke said, the quote European people did not bring civilization anywhere they went. They destroyed civilizations everywhere they went.
I'll tell you, Tonya, we're on the same page. The pandemic taught me a lot too of what I always thought that language is so important, people. I removed words out of my language. Like, I don't say minority. I'm not minor. Why'd I be a minority? That word's dead to me. Perfection and words perfect out of my vocabulary. No such thing as perfect. Like, literally, language. It's funny you say I believe that so heavily in the last couple of years. I'm like, and I've learned one thing I did learn was that I have to stop looking for white folks to save me or change things for me. I have to learn that if Suburban Digest does not want my work, I've been around for 15 years, I can't get a blurb in there, why am I giving them such importance? What happens when you start doing that? I got in People Magazine. I got on Jimmy Kimmel. I got other blessings that came because I stopped focusing on the few I was not getting. Isn't that funny?
Yeah, no, not funny at all. Not
I mean,
funny. Where your attention goes, that's where your energy grows. So you made some other things possible. You made bigger things possible.
I had to learn it, but I learned it through the pandemic. I mean, I'm in my 50s. I was like, the education doesn't end. That's the thing. The education does not end. As long as you're alive, it should never end, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing from you. But you're right. A language is something that I really started changing. And because it changed language, it changed my vocabulary, was changed how I'm looking at stuff. And I was just like, oh, if I just continue to support other people some of their ideas align with mine and they're working very hard, and they could be Black, brown, they could be Asian, they could be whatever, then I will support and lift them up. And then we all lift each other up at the same time, then we create our own worlds. Let's create, I'm over here, I'm in my world over here. So you don't like me and you don't want me, okay, fine. I'm over here. And nowadays, you can be just as successful in these groups instead of aspiring for that major thing. I didn't know that. Tonya did not know that until a few years ago.
Well, there's like three things that I was listening to, I wanted to respond to. One, with language and vocabulary. My first book is called Get Over Yourself, How to Drop the Drama and Claim the Life You Deserve. And I talk a lot about word medicine. And some people are very strong adherents to the Bible, and it's about the word and how the word is made into law. And so you speak your life into existence. So just changing your vocabulary from I gotta go to work to I get to go to work. Being conscious of the word medicine that you are using. When I think about, you were saying about, you can be successful in finding a community that is interested in what you're doing. When we think about the shows that become the number one show, they tell us it's the number one show. There are 7 billion people on the planet. A number one show could have 3 million to 10 million viewers in a country that has, what do we have, 30 million people here? Or is it 300 million in America?
300 million people here.
300 million people. 3 to 10 million are telling you what's the hottest thing. You got 280 million other people you can go to have an audience. And maybe you'll never be on that number one list, but you might have a larger audience.
And a long career. No, seriously, I don't. I look at this all, especially with streaming and everything. I see shows. I'm like 4 seasons, 8 seasons. Like I mean, and they're happy as a clam. The shows are doing fine. They have an audience. I look at shows like Power and like 10 spinoffs and all those. I mean, it's like then we have BET Her, and we have this over here, and we have Hulu. Like, there's all these things up there now. It's like you don't have to be on ABC, NBC, CBS to be a star, so to speak, or have longevity in a career. There's some folks they're working all the time. They're just working, and they're not like the big huge draw. But there are millions of people who love them, know their work, know who they are. There's not the mainstream telling you, well, you
get to practice their craft, and they're paid to do so, and they can have a long career doing that without having to be anointed by a group of gatekeepers who have a lot of money to tell everyone that their thing is the best.
I was just going to say that.
I mean, when you think that people spend $50 million on an Oscar campaign, I mean, just buy it.
You're right, exactly, at that point.
You are buying it. I mean, if I had $50 million,
right,
I don't know that that's what I would be spending it on.
Right. I'm going to switch for a second, because I'm curious about that. I always have to feel this. So, being nominated for a Tony, because the theater wing is very well respected, it's this big thing, and you went for Jelly's Last Jam back in the 80s. When you were first nominated, because I know when you were first nominated, how did that feel? Being just, can you remember?
Oh my God. It was just, well, first of all, it was something I dreamed of since I was a child.
Yeah.
So it was like, the dreams can come true kind of thing. Yeah, it was thrilling.
Because there's so many actors on stage every night, 8 nights a week. I would say 8 nights a week. I'm being funny. Like, there's 8 shows a week, and matinees, everything. And theater is not for the faint at heart, folks. It isn't. And if you're a leading person and in a play or a musical, again, it's not for the faint at heart. So to get the recognition must have been amazing. But
remembering it's a campaign.
Yes. Okay.
It's not a meritocracy.
So how did you handle that part? This was early in your career. How did you handle that? Do you remember?
I think that I've always been a bit of a pragmatist.
Okay.
And understood that, like, I try to be good because that's my standard. Okay. And I don't let an audience tell me if I'm good. I don't let an audience, you're not my standard, because, I just know that people can sell anybody anything.
Yes.
So my standard for being good is, does that feel like the best I can do or what I imagined or dreamed of doing? When it comes to getting recognized, that's a campaign. I mean, when I was doing Jelly's Last Jam, the publicist for the show literally told people that I was like the 6th or 7th lead and I wasn't important. And I hired my own publicist, God rest his soul, Leonard Fink. Leonard, I was paying him $250 a week. Leonard Fink and I would sit on the floor every night, and we would write stories. We would figure out what's in the paper. We would write stories. We would send out things for months, months. We were sending out articles about me, anything, photos, great photos, articles.
Yeah.
Months and months, nobody was picking anything up. I got my first nomination for, I think it was a drama desk.
Okay.
And suddenly I was in People magazine 6 weeks in a row. So that was a campaign.
Yeah.
We were working, it's like, as long as you're sending the stuff out there, when the event happens, the stuff has to already be there for them to run. It's too late to get them stuff after some event where someone acknowledges you. They have to already have the good press ready to go.
That's interesting. So when you won, what did that mean to you?
Well, I hoped it meant that there was going to be an opportunity to, sort of up-level the kind of work and the people I got to work with. As fate would have it, it was also when my former spouse decided, no, I'm going to destroy anything you might ever have. So 4 months after getting the Tony, I was in a divorce and custody battle for my 2 children, who were 2 and 5. And that occupied pretty much the next 20 years of my life.
Okay, so you have the juxtaposition of this high. There's just an industry high. You won the industry's like top honor after campaigning for it, after this whole thing. Personal life, you have this really hard, really strong thing you're dealing with in terms of your children and a relationship, possibly self-esteem, all that stuff. I mean, when you look back at that, what do you gather from that about life?
Well, you were asking me before about regrets. If I knew then what I knew now, I probably wouldn't have. That's a hard call to say, because going through all that made me the activist that I am.
Exactly,
I learned so much about the injustices of the world and the court system. But there's a part of me that goes, I could have if I just walked away from that fight, I would have won in a different way. But at the time, it was life or death, and I couldn't.
Yeah. Well, you were where you were at. So, I mean, you can't really.
Yeah.
You can't apologize for that. That's where it is. I mean, you were.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't have the wisdom I have. I didn't have the experience I have. I couldn't have made another choice.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get that.
And one of my buttons is injustice. Injustice is my button. It's still my button. I have to really constantly watch myself, because I will get in a battle about some injustice, and I have to sometimes go, you got to pick your battles. You're older. You don't have all that energy.
Yeah. Because injustice is so, you see it because it's lopsidedness. It's so unfair. It's always emotions come out when you see and hear injustice. When you see and hear it, some of us want to jump in. Others just go, it's not happening to me, whatever. But there are those of us who want to jump in. I mean, I always want to help people. I'm like, I have this paternal thing that I'm always having to watch myself too. Like, I just want to come in and take it away, or help come in and fix it. And you can't, you can't. You can't, right? I mean,
yeah, but I'm like a dog with a bone when I see an injustice. And a lot of times it has to do with language and words and facts. Yeah. So, you might ask me, say, I don't want to do blah, 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 blah. That is enough. And I'll go, okay. But if you put a because on there and the because ain't true, now you just better to tell me I don't put a not real true thing. Now we need to get that straightened out for me.
Well, my button is but, or however, comma. Those are my buttons. We talk about something and then someone goes, no, I see what you're saying, and I totally agree with you, but no, then you're negating then you
so
don't.
Could I say, I agree with you, and
there you go.
I see da 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 da.
I can handle that. See, I can handle that. But I know personally that's a hot button for when someone goes,
okay.
No, yeah, so no, I understand what you're saying, and that and you're right, this and this, but, or however, comma. I'm like, no, because you don't agree with what I'm saying. Even if you do, but I know it's a sore spot for me. But if you said and or also or something like that, I could totally respond. I respond differently. I totally would. I recognize I'm infallible. I'm not infallible. I recognize. As I get a little older, get a little more set in my ways. I'm trying to get unset.
Yeah, I know I'm older, because I'm like, I be looking at things and I'm like, oh yeah, I don't even want to play in this new rules. Nah, I like my old rules. I believe y'all play these new rules.
So, okay, how do you choose roles? Because you're like, I'm not gonna just take anything that comes my direction. Obviously, I can tell that from you right now. So how do you choose roles in these days? I mean, Raising a Son's it's a great story and everything, but I'm just like, how do you choose roles?
Well, my career in the theater has been originating. So I've had 30 years of originating
Yeah.
characters,
Yeah.
being in the room with writers and directors, and participating in the making of things. And I really found that fulfilling. And then I did Red Pill, where I wrote, direct, produced, did everything. And that was like the most creatively fulfilling thing I had ever done in my life. And that sort of shifted everything that I wanted to do. Before doing Red Pill, I just picked roles based on were the people that I was going to get in the room with smart and creative, who I was just like, I want to play with them.
Yeah.
I didn't really care what the scripts were
Yeah.
or the part. It was like, I want to play with these people. After doing Red Pill, I really felt like, the acting thing is just not enough anymore. It's like the least a bit of my creativity because I've been doing it for so long. So I have a mastery of it. And so I've turned down a lot of theater since doing Red Pill. And then Revival, amazing people have played Lena in A Raisin in the Sun. Claudia McNeil,
Yes.
Papers, LaTonya Richardson,
Oh,
Felicia
yeah.
Rashad,
Yes.
Gloria Foster. I mean, like, it's been done. And it's been done by the divas, why would I even want to do that?
So why?
O'Hara. Robert O'Hara is visionary and he's always out of the box. Whether I agree or like everything he does, he is always taking chances. And one of my mottos is brilliance lies in the moment that might not work.
Okay.
And, along with an Yvonne von Hove, Robert O'Hara is always risking something, taking a chance. And that is something I greatly respect and admire. So when they offered me Raisin in the Sun, I was like, no. I was supposed to direct a movie this fall.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, oh, but I can use this Raisin in the Sun offer to go to these movie people and go, y'all better shit or get off the pot and give me a contract.
Yeah.
And when I went to the movie people, who I've been working on this movie for 5 years.
Okay.
Things, and gave them the sort of ultimatum thing. Things started feeling a little shady. It started feeling like there was a kind of Brett LaFavre situation, and that coming from a way that I didn't know that I wanted my name associated with it. And so then there was this other offer, and there were some other personal matters that, my spirit said, whether you want to do this or not, you need to go to New York at this time and do this.
Oh, wow.
And Robert's vision for this play excited me. Robert said, Lorraine Hansberry is a Black queer woman who wrote a play with 4 women's roles.
I know.
Why is this play known as a play about a Black man's dreams?
I know that. Is that crazy, right?
Well, our production is not.
Okay.
So this is not like any Raisin in the Sun you have ever seen. And he approached it like it was a new play, and it is a new play. And people are experiencing it. It is today. It is relevant. It is now. Do you even, when you think of Raisin in the Sun, do you think of it as a play about abortion?
No.
But abortion is in that play in the first scene.
Yeah, you're right.
And so one woman came up to me the other day after the show, and she said, I just have to tell you, when my sister invited me to see Raisin, I was like, I have seen that play so many times. I have no desire to see this play ever. And her sister, prevailed. And she was like, I am so glad. It was so alive. It was so thrilling. It was so exciting. That's what we're doing.
I know it's a couple productions. I know a couple productions on Broadway that are doing that. And I forgot there was another one that they changed it to, it's now the women were the lead. I forgot what show that was.
So you got 1776, which is all women. You got Death of a Salesman, all Black.
That's one of them I heard of too. Yes. Okay. I love it. Why not? Shit. I mean, and the thing is, here's the thing. So you've been acting for a long time. You still need challenges, right? I mean, this is just like
I need to be challenged. If I'm not challenged, if there's not some risk of failure, it's just not interesting to me.
Yeah, and I like that. Now it's about Red Pill because what was the impetus for you writing this and deciding I'm gonna do it all, folks? But what was the impetus of Red Pill?
Well, I had to do it all because nobody believed in what I was doing.
Oh, wow.
And I could see where American politics and the election was going. And even before in 2016, and it was scary and frustrating being in New York with all these quote liberal people who I thought were just delusional.
Mm.
And when 2020 came around and I made Red Pill in 2019,
Okay.
I just was like, well, let me just make a movie about what I see happening. And fortunately there were all these other people who secretly shared these kind of views but had no place to put them, so they were willing to come and play with me.
Oh.
And when I made it, people were like, that's so far-fetched. And then once it came out, people were like, wow, did you write this after the January 6th insurrection?
Yes. No. That's interesting. Do you have a certain writing process when you were writing? Was there a certain process? You always ask me like, "Well, you write subjects. How do you get up in the morning and get some coffee and turn make the birds chirp and start? Or you just like you write when you feel like it?"
I write when I feel like it, when the muse is speaking to me. Sometimes that's in the middle of the night. Like I'm taking a writing class right now, and I have a rewrite of a pilot due today.
Oh, okay.
And I've not written any of it. And I will write that pilot today and turn it into my teacher in time for her to read it for my class tomorrow.
And you will. I believe it. You will.
I mean, it's not like I'm starting from scratch.
I know. I'm sure.
Materials in my head. I've written previous drafts.
Yeah.
But she asked for a major shift. And I'm like, I'm going to put it down. Because sometimes you can get so caught up in figuring it out. But it's like when you're on the page and I like deadlines. I like false deadlines. So it's like, this is a class. I'm gonna put something down on the page, and I'll probably surprise myself and come up with some good stuff.
Yeah, I love it. Well, actually, what is Red Pill about? Let's talk about what it's about.
Red Pill is about a multicultural group of friends who decide to go down to Virginia to canvass before the 2020 election. And as they're heading down, there are all these signs that it might not be a good idea. But only the Black woman that I play is like, guys, I think we should go back. Everybody's like, oh, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. And shit happens.
Wow, wow, okay. Okay. Mm-hmm. Wow. That's I love that. Okay. And where can I see that actually? Where can I see that?
It's on Amazon. If you want no commercials, it's on YouTube with commercials. It's on Fandango, it's on Xfinity Comcast, it's on Vudu, it may be on Tubi now.
Oh, okay.
It's everywhere but Netflix and Hulu.
Of course. Well, I'm gonna watch it. I want to see it.
Oh yeah.
You can't say that podcast. Now you're in podcast. You're in my world in podcasting. How is that just personally? How's that been doing podcasting?
Well, I don't do it much anymore.
Okay.
So I guess I started that pre-pandemic.
Okay.
And it's on the Broadway Podcast Network.
Yeah, I saw that.
And I really banked most of those podcasts before the pandemic even happened. Okay. So before the pandemic happened, I had a year of conversations.
Yeah, you had a lot. I saw there was one. I was like, you have a lot
already banked. I love having interesting conversations with interesting people. It is something I'm passionate about. I just felt that particular platform didn't value what I was bringing.
Okay. I understand that. I understand that. People, when they talk about soap operas, they say many things. A lot of folks say it was one of the, it's a very interesting experience, but they learned how to act or things. They say like it's a training ground, all these things. I just want to know what your thoughts are now that you've been away from the soap opera genre for a while. What are soap operas in relation, you think, for you and your acting?
It was like performance art in a way. you know, this opportunity to be big and grand and make big choices. And I grew up watching All My Children. So I dreamed of being on All My Children. So once again, this is like a little girl's dream come true to get to be on Pine Valley. And then the practice of, you know, learning 30, 40 pages a day.
Yeah.
You know, it's great training. It's great training.
So no regrets being on a soap opera. None for you.
No, I loved it.
Yeah, I think a lot of people. It's great. I can talk to you forever. I'm gonna set the wrap. It's like you're just amazing person. You like I said, I've been a fan of your activism and art, and so I guess one of my like kind of ending questions is that I'm saying almost rhetorical, but I do want to know your views on this. Can there be activism, advocacy in art? I know those are two different things. Advocacy and advocacy, but can it be in your art? Can you continue to grow, create opportunities, do stuff, and still look out for your people and not apologize?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we have a whole history of people who did it. Now, but they all paid consequence. You know, they had consequences. Paul Robeson, America took his passport away so that he couldn't even travel to work outside the country after he was blacklisted in America for speaking up for the Negro. Eartha Kitt had to go to Europe to work because she was blacklisted in America. So yes, it's there. Harry Belafonte was fortunate that not being a U.S. citizen, he could travel any damn where he wanted to. There was no passport you could take away from him.
Yes, that's true.
Okay?
Yes.
So he has been an activist, you know, bless him. He's still living and still doing it.
Yeah.
There is a tradition of it. And, you know, when I saw the We See You White American, whatever thing that was, it was like, not in that tradition, you know, an anonymous letter. We don't even know who wrote it. Like we want these things said, but we don't want to take responsibility for it. I always say change requires a Malcolm X and a Martin Luther King. It doesn't happen from, you need something pushing from both sides.
Yes.
Okay. And if you can't stand, and they both were killed.
Right.
Okay. And so there was no right way to do it. No. They killed them both.
Yep.
There's a cost to change. Power concedes nothing. And if you're going to challenge power, you have to know that you are risking your life and your livelihood to do so.
Yes, I agree with that. And I tell people all the time, I will not apologize for openly supporting my people in art. No other races have to apologize. But when Black folks support Black folks, we have to say, "Well, I didn't really mean it that way," or you know, but I say I will not apologize. I will support and uplift. I come from the village mentality. That's what the village does. We all support each other. We all have our roles. We all take care of each other. And as my friend always says, we all win when we all win.
And if we all, people of the global majority, the African diaspora, just supported and rooted for everything Black, it would be the top of everything. Whenever they start a new network, a new platform, they come to us first. We make trends. We tell people what's hot. If we gave that to us first, we'd all be at the top of everything. And even as it stands, we're still the 16th largest economy in the world.
I know. I agree with you completely. I feel like all the energy put into Apple and all these things that are white run and right this, there's some Black ones over here doing some great stuff over here. I mean, so, and even a smaller scale, like you said, TV shows, fashion. My friend comes up with I'll buy some of yours. Sure, I can afford it. I will buy it. I will post it. I will say, this is my friend so-and-so.
Me too.
You know, I just say, I do that. I mean, we're so willing to support what they tell us to support. And then we leave all these other folks just sitting there hanging in a lurch.
No, I repost anybody Black doing something good.
Yes, me too. Me too. It takes 2 seconds, folks. It's not that hard. It takes 2 seconds.
And I remember people were like, "Oh no, you're only supposed to repost for this." And I'm like, "This here, please."
Right.
What I'm using this for.
Yes. Tonya, you're amazing. Thanks for spending your time with me, and I hope to do this again with you at some point again. You're
Thanks.
amazing.
Thank you. And I just want to say that Red Pill is screening at the Real Sisters of the Diaspora Festival in New York, October 23rd at 3 p.m. at Long Island University. We won the festival for Best Film last year, but it was virtual. So this will be a chance to see it live. I'm also performing a Raisin in the Sun at the Public Theater Tuesdays through Sundays at the Public, 425 Lafayette. We do, I think, 1 and 7 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays and 7 p.m. during the week. They're even mask-only performances. And please look for my book, Red Pill Unmasked. You can have me read it to you on Audible. It's also available at Barnes & Noble. And there is a Red Pill game. You can buy the ebook on the Red Pill website, but there's a narrative game so that you can see if you could survive a world run by red pills, and that's redpillmovie.com.
Oh, fun! That is so fun. Oh my goodness! I wonder if I would survive. We'll see what happens. I'll do it so I survive. Everybody, I'm James Lott Jr. Go to lottahelp.com, JLJ Media everywhere. Support. I always say support the arts, just in general. Support the arts. It's been known that arts actually, when you teach the students, the kids, it enriches everything else in their lives. My grandkids went to arts-based elementary schools and are doing great as adults and doing great. So support the arts, support indie artists, support people who are doing positive things, working very hard to get there. You never know someone's story, but just check them out. Like you see something, check it out. There's nothing hard. So support all of them and support Black folks all over the world who are doing amazing, wonderful things. And like she said, are setting up cultures and trends. We're always a leader in all kind of stuff. So support that also, but support each other. And I will see you next time on Extra Connections.